So today we have Rhiannon Alley, and she is coming to us all the way from Israel, and she is going to talk to us about traveling with a baby. Good. Oh, it's good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. It's so fun that we can talk to each other all the way across the world. And there's nobody better to talk to us about that than Rhiannon. Because she has traveled with her baby all over the world. And so specifically, she's going to talk to us about traveling by air. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, and she's going to give us some tips and tricks for that. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background about Rhiannon. She's a global mortgage and marketing agent, and she's licensed in the state of Florida and in Texas, but she lives in Tel Aviv, Israel, which is pretty interesting. She has a great job, and she's got 18 years experience in the real estate and mortgage and finance world. So if anybody's interested in buying a house, you can talk to her. But she started late with her child rearing experience. She was 40 before she had her baby. And her baby's now, 18 months old?
18 months.
18 months old, and that baby has traveled the world, and she's that baby's had more experience traveling than most of us. Rhiannon has lives in Tel Aviv, but she also has a home in Florida, and so they travel back and forth there, but they also have traveled the world because her husband works for the airlines, and so they get to see the world. They have quite the vacationing life. So just in her little 18 months, she has traveled with her baby to Canada, South Africa, Hong Kong, Beijing, China, Thailand, Greece. They're about to go to Bulgaria, and then they've made multiple trips from their home in Tel Aviv to Florida. So that's quite a lot of travel with a baby, and she's traveled from infancy to all the way to her 18 months. So I wanted to talk to Rhiannon about how you do that with the baby, because we get so many questions about traveling with an infant, and who better to tell us than Rhiannon. So welcome. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
And I think you're going to be able to give us lots and lots of good advice with the expertise that you have. So thanks for joining us. Anything else just you want to tell me about your background to start with?
Well, I will tell you that having a baby at 40 years old was certainly not a planned occasion.
You didn't start out saying, I think I'll wait till I'm 40 to have a baby.
Yeah, well, better late than never, I guess. But maybe it was the bucket list idea. But no, I've always been a businesswoman. Mm-hmm. Business has always been my baby. So integrating having a baby at 40 years old with my business full bloom and trying to integrate the work-life balance and also the international lifestyle that we have, because she has a family in the States and she has a family in Israel. So going back and forth is our lifestyle. It's our life.
Right.
It's not just a choice like, oh, let's just go on vacation and just, slap the baby and all the luggage. It's a lifestyle that we've gotten accustomed to. So, I know some people really dread the whole traveling with a toddler, traveling with a baby, and I can't look at it like that. I have to travel with the baby. So you can make it a good experience, or you can make it a not a good experience.
Right.
And so I choose, and a lot of times they say that it's not the journey, it's the destination, or what's the saying? It's not the destination, it's the journey. Well, I will tell you, having a baby, traveling with a baby, it is most certainly the destination, not the journey.
Right.
So you just have to make the best you can out of the situations, because each travel trip is going to be a different story.
Right.
It's different.
And, it would be easy if, we said, this is how you do something with a baby. But babies change every day. And so just about the time you figure something out, they've changed. And so, it's never like, I have got this down.
Right.
It's just like when you have one child, then you have another child, and well, everything's different because that child's different. And so, there's never like one way to do something. And it's always a changing process. But, if you can kind of figure things out and say, well, and go with the flow, being easygoing and being, adaptable, it's always helpful.
It is.
The more, you dread something and the more anxious you are about something, the more difficult it's always going to be.
Yeah.
But if you look at that as this is our life and this is our lifestyle, then, I think that's a good way to look at it. You could have said, oh my gosh, our life has just changed now. But, you're like, no, this is the way that we live our life. And, we're either going to stop this or we're going to figure out how to make this baby fit into this.
That's right. And she loves to travel because of that.
Right. And so, and just looking at Riley, she's a very easygoing baby, and, she's very adventurous. And I think that has to do with kind of the way that you have raised her to be. So that's really good.
I think the more you're scared of something, like there's a lot of parents out there that are scared to travel with me. Oh, I have a baby, I can't travel anymore. And that was one of my biggest fears. One of my biggest fears of having a child so late in life was my freedom just going away, because I heard so many times that, oh, your life's going to change. You can't go out. You can't, be an adult anymore. It's all about the baby, and you can't travel and you can't do things. And you can. I am here to tell you, you can do everything that you did before baby. It's just modified.
Right. And did you hear that a lot? Because you were, such a free spirit. Did you hear that? Did people tell you that? Oh, you're not going to be able to do these things anymore?
Yes, and this is probably why I had the fear of having children, because I was afraid of my travel days going away. I was afraid of the freedom of not having that freedom. But I feel so liberated to say that you can have it all. You can have the vacation. You can have the travel trip. You can do it. You just have to modify and be prepared.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. So let's kind of start at the beginning. So you got a trip coming up. Let's start with the packing. So what are some packing tips that you have when you're going to get ready to go on a trip, whether it's an international trip or you're just going, a short trip?
Well, we do a lot. We burn a lot of hours on the plane. I mean, we spend 10 to 12 hours on a single flight going one way. But I always have my one diaper bag. And I know I see a lot of women out there with like humongous diaper bags that look like a piece of luggage, and it's heavy on your shoulder. It's huge. I have very light, open, light bags. And I put my diaper bag, I put all my essentials. Some people have too much in their diaper bag and it weighs them down. I have just the basics: diapers, wipes, and cream, and two spare outfits for the travel, because, things happen. So I have that bag, but I don't load it down with 20 diapers. I put a selective amount that I know is going to get me by for the trip, like 5 diapers, and her water bottle, and maybe a couple of snacks, and that's it. It's very light. And then I have another bag, which is designed just for occupying her attention, which is the toy bag. But I'm very selective on which toys I put in the bag, because you're not going to take the whole toy box, but you're going to be selective on what's going to give her the ultimate distraction, or give him the ultimate distraction on the plane. Everybody dreads having a crying baby on the flight. Nobody wants that. Oh, it's the end of the world. The baby's crying on the flight. Well, babies cry. That's what they do. And you don't need to be intimidated by that. But we certainly want to be prepared by having whatever those key toys are that really occupy their attention. Now, I'm not here to promote electronics, put iPads in front of your baby's face all day. But if it takes an iPad with interactive games for your child, not just video games or cartoons, but interactive games. Like I have the balloon pop, where the child can pop the balloons or whack the mole. So I have interactive games that keeps her attention, and it's fun. So I have that. I have her snacks. She likes to try to text. I have a fake phone that she. So I know what my child is preoccupied with. So
Mhm.
I take those key toys and electronics and I put those in a bag, and I have 2 bags on the flight, and it gets us by. And she's 18 months, and after they're 2, they're required to sit in their own seat. Well, my child was a little more active uh, than your average child. So I now have to travel starting when she was 17 months, having 2 chairs, one for me, one for her.
Okay.
And that was the magic. Having a separate chair, having her own monitor, having her own tray table, and her toys, and all her goodies.
Mhm. Because that's a long time to sit with somebody in your lap.
Listen, and I have to say this, you know, she was in my lap up until she was about 16 months. But the last couple of flights towards her approaching the 17-month mark was like holding a wild raccoon in your lap, screaming and crying and clawing. And it's not fun for you. It's not fun for the people around you. And it's just not pleasant. So at that moment, when she became a wild raccoon in my lap for 10 hours, I said, no, this is it. She has to have her own seat. That was the moment that I decided to make that transition.
So if you can afford it, it's really better to get their own
But
seat.
but
Yeah.
but here's the other thing, and I will be very honest. The flight attendants and the airlines are very sympathetic. Um, they're very adaptable when it comes to families and babies. Okay, like there's times where you know you can have your child, and if they have extra room, they will modify the seats. You don't have to pay sometimes for an extra ticket. Like if there is extra seats on the plane, they can juggle. You just ask. You just ask the flight attendant, "Hey, my child, she's a screamer and she kicks. And if you don't want her kicking or screaming through the whole flight, is there any way you could try to accommodate us maybe in the back of the plane where it's not so popular for people to sit because of the toilets or the noise or whatever? Maybe they can accommodate you. But if you don't ask, you're not going to get accommodated.
Right.
But don't be afraid to ask because they're there to make the flight good in general for
For
all the passengers.
everybody. Right. They don't want a child who's going to scream.
No, it makes their life, not, it makes their work night not so well with having a bunch of screaming babies.
What about so you've got like those 2 bags for her. So one that you can kind of pack away, and one that you've got right there with the toys and things like that.
Hmm.
And then you've got most of your other stuff you're just checking, so you're not carrying all that stuff on. What about
That's right.
getting through the airport? Any tips of like before you even get on the plane of getting through the airport? Because it's like you got to get there early, and you got to get through security and all of that. Any tips for like getting through there? Because you got your own
Well,
stuff too, and then you got the baby, and you got all your
yes. And it can feel like you're literally moving a U-Haul from one place to another when you're going through the airport. So I try to check in as much as I can. And I try to have some essentials, for her and I. So in case our luggage gets lost, we still have other options wherever we land. But I suggest to fill up the bottles of water, your baby bottles, fill those up. They will screen you. They will test the bottles of water. Do not put a lot of liquid. Like people don't think about it, but they have the cans of SPF, the sunscreen. They'll have bottles of sunscreen in their bag. Don't carry that. I had them take away that stuff. They haven't taken away diaper rash cream or anything like that, but I try to limit because it takes time. When they go through your diaper bag, it takes extra time. And you have the stroller, you have all these other things. So just limit it. Just have the essentials.
Okay. Yeah. What about your baby's formula? If your baby is drinking formula, like is there limits to the amounts of liquid that you can bring on for your baby?
I usually have 2 bottles, and for a baby, it's okay. They will allow you to have 3 bottles of liquid. They haven't put any restrictions on me, like, oh, you can only have 1 bottle of liquid. It's a baby bag, so it's in a baby bottle. So they're pretty lenient on that. And as far as formula goes, there really hasn't been any type of because they know what the purpose is, and every baby's different. Some baby requires more feedings and others don't. But also on the flight, they will give you bottles of water if you request it for your baby.
Okay.
To make
so you could just bring your formula and they
you don't even
give you
have
the water.
to, yeah. You don't have to fill up the bottles if you don't want to. So.
Okay. And then like, so getting through, you know, the checkpoints, you want to make sure that you can have like, you know, easy off. They still make you take your shoes off in a lot of places. And so, you know, being able to get through there where you're not like having to take too much time. But that's a good point about not having so much stuff in your diaper bag, because they do search all of that stuff and you don't want them throwing away your really expensive organic, you know, sunscreen and all of that kind of stuff. So just kind of thinking about, you can get that stuff wherever you need to go, or packing it in your checked luggage. That was a good point.
And also,
I've been in the airport before where people are they're throwing away all of their stuff, and you're like, oh my gosh, I just bought that.
I know. And also baby scissors, you know, to cut their nails. They look at that as a weapon. So to have that packed away in your luggage when you check your bags in, that's better.
Okay, that's a good point. Okay, so you're on the plane. What about when you were traveling with your baby when she was like a newborn? Any tips there when you know, they're probably a little bit easier because you don't have to entertain them as much. Right?
Those days were much easier. So basically, they have the bassinet, which attaches to the wall of the plane. And they have certain rows that accommodate newborns and babies up to, I think, like 15, 16 months if they fit in the bassinet. And so all the flights that I've taken, the long flights, they've allowed us to take the bassinet. So if you do book a ticket, ask for the travel agent or whoever you're booking with if you can have a bassinet seat. That way you and your partner can sit in front of the baby in the bassinet. It's magic. You are hands-free, the baby's sleeping, you can sleep, and it actually has a zipper where it velcros and it zips. So the baby is snug. So anytime there's turbulence or anything like that, the baby's going to be safe. So then that was nice. That was a nice feature. And there's sometimes that if you can't book a ticket, again, when you do get on the flight, you can ask the flight attendants if there's anybody who's sitting in the bassinet aisle, if they wouldn't mind switching seats with you, if they don't have a baby. And then you can take the bassinet. The flight attendants and the airlines are very accommodating to families and babies. So that's another way to try to negotiate that when you get on the flight, if you don't already have a bassinet seat.
That's really nice.
And also, if you cannot get a bassinet seat, what I did before is I would have the pouch, and I would put her in the pouch and just snuggle with her for the flight. And then wherever I go, she goes. And of course, at that age, as a newborn, they're sleeping all the time for the most part. But it does make your life much easier.
So being able to like baby wear, so, you know, some kind of front carrier or something like that, that's really easy. That's easy to get Absolutely. To the airport with too. And then
oh, yeah.
To, you know, to carry them. So that's a good point. That's a really good point. Okay. And then of course, if you're breastfeeding, that's even easier because you don't have to, you know, take anything with you. So that's really
Absolutely.
That's good. Now, what about seats? Is there a seat preference if you can't get that bassinet aisle or seat? Are there other seats that you recommend? Any part of the plane that's better or easier? Or
I actually prefer with a child to sit in the back of the plane, because it's where the toilets are. I like having accessibility to the toilets because you're constantly changing diapers. Sometimes when they're crying, you can take them to the bathroom and calm them down a little bit. You could take them in the back of the plane. That way it's not interrupting first class passengers, business class passengers. So when you're in the back of the plane, you're kind of isolated and you kind of have your own little kingdom in the back. A lot of people don't like it because it's near the toilets, but when you have a baby and you need that accessibility, it's magic. So Now, because Riley's 18 months old now, she's running around the plane. So my preference has changed. I still like the back of the plane, don't get me wrong, but I sit her near the window and I barricade her so that she
Yeah.
can't run out. So we try to get the last row in the back of the plane. So she has the back of the plane to run around in. That's not interfering with passengers. We have the toilet, so I can do her changings there. We have the flight attendants galley, so they can give us drinks if we need. They can give me hot water if I need to make a bottle. So really, that's my preference. Back of the plane with a child.
And then you can like keep her in there so she can't get
And
past
if
you.
you have a toddler who wants to run the plane and get in the cockpit and push all the buttons, or go into the galley and try to help the flight attendants out with their carts, or pick up garbage and help the flight attendants that way, I prefer to barricade her or him near the window with all her toys, her snacks, and her TV.
That's nice. That's a good point. Okay. Um, let's see. Now, do you pack all of the things that you need? Like, do you take your portable crib, your car seat, your strollers, all of that kind of stuff with you? Do you pack all of that? Or do you use like some kind of service when you get where you're going where you can like rent all of that kind of stuff when you get there?
I like to take our car seat because it's her car seat and it's familiar.
Mhm.
So she's in her comfort zone. It's like her own little cocoon. So it's a little piece of uh, being familiar with her surroundings when you're away in an unfamiliar setting.
Mhm.
So I carry that with us. And then nothing else I rent. I do not rent and I do not take our portable crib because it's a hassle. It's one more thing to lug. When you go and check into, say, Airbnbs, you can ask them in advance if they provide a crib. Some places actually do. I think you can actually search Airbnbs that are family oriented that may accommodate a crib. But we stay in hotels for the most part because we travel a lot, and we just call the concierge and have a crib sent up to us by housekeeping. So, and it's nice, brand new sheets, nice linens, just like your nice 4 or 5 star hotel. It's a 4 or 5 star crib.
Yeah.
But we wipe it down when we get it. We wipe it down because you never know how good they clean those cribs. But for the most part, she adapts very well in different environments that way.
Mhm. Okay. So
But I don't
taking,
I don't try to take more than I can, more than I should. Basically, in her uh, I check in her car seat, so I don't have to lug that on the plane because it's big and bulky, and they usually just bring it out to us when we get off the plane. So it's not a hassle at all.
okay. Any mistakes that you've made in your traveling? Trying to juggle, a baby and getting through the airport and getting through a flight and, anything that you kind of had to learn the hard way?
I'm usually pretty prepared, and I usually try to pack and make a list the night before. And even though I've been traveling a lot, I still like to make a list because I hate that feeling of forgetting something or missing something. My biggest regret is not having enough clothes on the flight. Not having enough clothes because, I mean, she's had a blowout here and there,
Okay.
and you are panicked because you don't have any more clothes. And here your baby is wearing these
Oh no.
clothes that smell and it's horrible, or she just threw up. I mean, I've had times where Riley was she had motion sickness and
Oh
she
no.
threw up on herself. And I didn't have an extra change of clothes. And I said, oh my God, this is not good. And I also left my luggage at the airport one time. I
Oh
was so
no.
I was so frantic about the flight, working, taking her through the airport with the stroller and everything that you have to go through with security that I forgot my luggage that had her clothes in it and my clothes.
Oh no.
So with that being said, I didn't have any extra clothes in my purse. I suggest having extra maybe an extra diaper in your purse, maybe one extra change of clothes in your purse, not just the diaper bag. I mean, because we're multitasking moms, we're
Right.
business moms, we're wives, we're everything to everybody. You know, you do have to kind of have a back door. You have to plant formula, a diaper, all in places in your business bag. You know, have a diaper. It might look like a diaper bag, but it'll save you in case you do happen to forget your diaper bag or you happen to forget something else.
So, I think that's kind of reassuring to, to other moms that you do this all the time and you still forgot your luggage. So,
Yes.
that happens to everybody. You got,
Yeah, because
we have so much on our minds all the time that things that you do all the time can still, you can still get frazzled and things happen. So,
and still, and I tell people today, they, how do you travel with a baby? Oh, it's so intimidating. Well, get a cart. I know some people don't want to spend the $5 to buy a cart, but when you have stroller, baby, diaper bag, your purse, your business bag, the toy bag, you have a carry-on luggage, just get a cart. Put everything you can on the cart to make your life a little easier, and ask for help.
right.
People at the airport are really good. If you just ask, people will help you. You can even get through the lines quicker if you just ask. But I think a lot of people are intimidated, or they don't want to ask. They feel embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed.
I think that's a really good point. Ask for help. Why do we insist on doing everything ourselves? Ask for help. You got a baby and 10 bags and you're trying to juggle everything, and ask somebody to help you. People are always willing to help you. You don't have to do everything yourself.
That's right.
I think that's really key. You don't have to do everything yourself.
And I do things a lot myself because I travel. My husband's not with me all the time because he's flying and he's traveling himself. So a lot of times for me to get to point A to point B, I'm traveling and carrying the load all by myself. So, but you can do it without losing your head. You
Mhm.
can do it without losing your bags,
Right.
like I did.
Right. You must have
Constant
felt just
awareness.
terrible when you figured that out. At what point did you figure out that you had left your bags?
After the flight, when I arrived in New York City, then I realized I forgot all of our clothes from the airport because I was too busy multitasking, being a mom, being a businesswoman, being frantic because we had such little time to get to our gate. So you have to do a constant check all the time. Constant check. Do I have my purse? Do I have my phone? Do I have the diaper bag? Everywhere you stop and go, even if it's to the bathroom, you have to do quick inventory as you go. It's not just when you leave the house, you're doing inventory. You have to do inventory the entire time you are traveling because it is so easy to be distracted, to forget. And hey, you can have a PhD and still forget.
I think that's a good point. So you do have so many places in along the way that you have to stop. I'm always afraid when you go through security. I always do this double check, and it's just me. Okay, did I get my laptop? Did I get my bag? Because they make you take everything out. Okay, now you got to put your shoes back on, and then okay, did I get everything and put it back in my bag? So that's a good point of every place you stop. And maybe do you count your bags so you know how many you pick back up every time? Because
That's right.
that would be a good point. Okay, I started out with 6 bags or 3 bags or 4 bags. So that
And the phone is so easy when you have a baby. The phone is the first thing that you forget because you keep it close by you, and you're calling your relatives, you're calling your husband, you're checking in, and you always put your phone somewhere to take care of the baby, to pick the baby up out of the stroller, and I have to be consciously aware all the time of where I put my phone.
Mm-hmm.
So I put my phone on top of the car when I was putting, my child in the car seat, and then I forgot my phone on top of the car. So there was a time where I had my phone in my shirt, and then I bent over to put Riley in the car seat or in the stroller, and then it fell out of my shirt, and I forgot to get it. So that is a huge, huge uh, way to forget your phone. Is
Yeah.
juggling the baby while you have it. You almost just have to like leave it in your purse. Try not to take it out, and when you do take it out, remember to put it back in your purse.
Yeah.
Don't put it on the stroller. Don't put it in the cup holder as you're strolling the baby. Put it back in your purse.
Yeah. So having that one place where you put it every time, particularly going through, I'm always afraid I'm going to lose my driver's license in the airport because they make you take it out so many times. And so I'm always like, okay, where did I put my driver's license? Where did I put my driver's license? Where did I put my driver's license? So having those one, particular places where you always put things back.
Yeah. And passports, she's dual citizen. So she has 2 passports. I have 1 passport. We have our identification cards. I have a bag just for our travel passports and identification. I take it out of the bag. I put it back in the same bag. I don't throw it in my purse.
Mm-hmm.
I have a special bag just for that.
Those are all good points. Those are very good points.
And people think, oh, well, isn't that so harsh on the baby? The baby's traveling to different time zones. You have to be smart and get acclimated. You have to know how to acclimate your baby. And that's like a whole nother discussion because
right,
you have jet lag. So, I like to travel at night when I know my child is going to sleep, which she likes to sleep.
Oh, that was one of my other questions, was the time of day. So that's the best time of day to travel, you think, is like when she's gonna sleep?
Absolutely. Because they were going to be more calm on the flight, and as long as you can make it as comfortable as possible, like I take her blanket because that's her familiar favorite right there is her blankie. So I take her blanket with her, and once she has that, no matter where she's at, it's that comfort level for her, and she goes to sleep with it. So I do what I can, but night flights are to me the best. Sometimes you can't do a night flight. You have to do what's available, and it's a day flight. And sometimes we've traveled during the day for 10 hours, and that's kind of hard, and all of us have to get over jet lag. But, you look at the time zone, and you get your feedings accordingly, and you put them to bed, him to bed, her to bed at the appropriate time. Sometimes you need to play with them a little longer and wait later to put them in bed. Sometimes you can put them in bed right away, but don't let them sleep too long. You have to wake them up a little bit so that they can sleep at a normal hour. So there's techniques, just like you and I, getting acclimated.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that is a good point. That you want to try to have those flights, and that makes sense. If you're going to be on a plane for 10 hours, it's much better to have her on a plane when she's sleeping. So that makes sense. Okay.
But yeah, it's a lot of people want to travel. They want to go on vacations with their baby, and they're just so afraid. They're afraid that it's going to hurt their baby to travel that far, or it's not good for the baby. Well, it's all about getting adapting and getting acclimated to your surroundings. So as long as you're doing it with ease and care to get back on a new time zone and get back on track, you just have to know how to do it, how to ease into it. You're not going to fly with your baby 15 hours somewhere and then take them to Disney World when everybody's tired. Everybody needs to rest at least for a couple of days before you start your vacation, before you start all the family fun activities, because it's not just hard on the baby, it can be hard on the adults as well. It's just our makeup and the hour change.
That's a really good point. I think you have to be patient. You have to be patient with your child. You have to understand this is this is just as difficult for them, and that you do have to be, patient with them and understanding. You have to be able to keep your child entertained, for that length of time, and then expect that, they're going to have some time to rest.
Yeah. And I usually tell people, like, don't plan a lot of activities day one, even if you're traveling, you know, just on a 3-hour flight somewhere. You still have the airport security, you have the time in the airport, the travel, the car, the cab, whatever. Take the first day and a half just to ease into your trip, you know. You don't have to go see everybody on the first day. Give your time and your baby time to rest for the first day. Like what we usually do is when we get to the hotel or our destination, even if it's back in Florida, we rest. We take it easy. We go to the grocery store, we cook at home, you know, we just take it easy. And then the next day, we start easing our activities into our lives. And then after about the third day, you can start resuming a normal time, a little vacation time with your family.
That's a really good tips. Thanks for bringing that up. That's a really good point. You know, we as adults, I think when we go on vacation, we think, oh, I got to see everything and do everything, and I only
That's
have
right.
this amount of time.
That's right.
You know, we got to do it all, and I can rest when I get back home. But you can't really expect that a baby can do that, or a toddler can do that. You know, they're out of their own environment, and some babies are very adaptable, but some are not. And you really can't expect that they're just going to jump right in an unfamiliar, surrounding and be able to just, hit the ground running. So
you can still accomplish everything you want to accomplish on your trip. You just need those first couple of days to acclimate, and then the rest is easy.
And what about coming back home? Do they have a little bit of trouble settling down when you come back home?
It depends on the flight. It really depends on the time of the flight. I like to be as normal as possible. And because we do a lot of international traveling, I have to watch the time zones and how many hours she slept on the flight. When are we landing? Should I put her in bed right now? Should I let her take a nap and then wake her up in 4 hours? So I have to calculate all that. And I go by how she feels as well, And so I try to make it as normal as possible when we do come back home, because now she's going to a daycare. And I pretty much have that down to a science now. But again, the babies are changing.
Right.
Your children are changing. What is good now may not work in a month or two. So I'm learning this process like all the other moms, but I'm just learning it at a faster pace because of my lifestyle. Yeah, some people travel once a year. I travel on a monthly basis with her. So at this point, I think she's traveled now she's been for sure 14 times. So I would say she's been on probably about 30 flights.
So really just watching your child and seeing that, if it's a difference in time change or time zones, you have to give them some time to adjust.
Yeah, you just can't, think, oh, well, let's go to the zoo today. We just got in. She had a nap on the plane. Let's go to the zoo, But it's just easier. It's less stressful when you're just more prepared. When you just consider those first couple of days when you get to your destination, just to be a little low key, and then introduce your itinerary to the rest of the trip.
Is there anything that people ask you, because you do this all the time and so people know that?
Well, the most common question that people ask is, how do you do it? That is the most famous question. How do you travel with a baby? And my answer is, you just do it. You just do it. You just make it work. Don't be intimidated. I mean, it's a lifestyle. It's like getting in the car. People put their kids in the car to take them to the daycare to go to work. They just do it.
Right.
And that's the same with us. We ride buses, we ride cabs, we're on planes. You just do it.
I think a lot of people really dread that, they want to be where they're going, but they don't want to, have the process of getting there. But just kind of looking at it with a positive attitude that this is all a part of the journey. You can't just get there, you have to, it's all a part of the process. And if you can kind of look at it all as a part of the journey of going where you want to go, and that, you can do it, and you just do it, just like you said, how do you do it? It's just like everything else you do as a mom. You just do it. There's not parts of motherhood that you get to skip. You can't say this is going to be hard and I don't want to do it. You just, it's all a part of the journey of being a mom, and you just kind of look at it and tackle it and figure it out. And some things work easily and some things don't.
Well, you learn real quickly what doesn't work. But again, anybody can contact me anytime, Luann. I'm available. They can email me, Facebook, text, whatever can help your network.
Okay, thanks so much. Well, I really appreciate this. These are going to be really valuable tips for everybody. And we wish you the best of luck in all your travels and your business, and the being a working mom and all the hats you're juggling.
It can be tough.
Yes, it can be.
But not impossible.
But that's right. That's right. Keep us updated on your adventures, and thanks so much.
We'll send all of our pictures on Facebook. You can see us there.
That'd be great. Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Luann. Take care.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.